Hey, what's going on, guys? And welcome back to Turn for Two.
This is Rob.
This is Anthony.
Welcome back. We're up to episode 6.
Episode 6 now.
We're still chugging along. Got lots of great ideas, lots of things to do. But we're gonna do some more consistent things with these episodes. So the last few episodes were set review things. So they were much longer, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to listen. Oh, quick shout out to some of our listeners since we did those reviews.
Yes.
Tell them where they're from.
All right, we had Canada.
Thank you very much.
All from Quebec.
Yep.
And then we had New Zealand.
Nope, Iceland.
Close enough.
We also had New Zealand, but Iceland is who we're giving the shout out to today. I think it's just really cool that we're across the world right now. Now, it could be somebody just randomly stumbled upon it, or somebody was actually looking for it. But thanks for listening, and we hope you keep going and get all your friends to do the same. That being said, first set we're going to do is stonk review. This is what we're going to do every time we are just talking about the prices on this thing, because unfortunately with this game, and I guess all card games, pricing is an issue.
And this one right now specifically because of everything going on with everything is getting slowly more printed. I mean, I was just telling Rob, we just saw Troves go back up at Target as of recording this.
Yep.
And we are still getting, I think, and I was talking about this with some people we play with the other day, I think they printed more of this than set 1, but they didn't know how much more they were going to get to print.
Yes.
And they didn't want to make an announcement and then have people get upset. So it's okay, we just have all this product now that's slowly trickling out. And it's you guys just we're not going to say it, because if we say it and then it doesn't happen, we're going to look bad.
You're right. I think that they did definitely print more, but it is going to dry up, and it's going to dry up soon.
Yes.
People are snatching it up, but the fact that people are snatching it up and there is so much currently available, stocks are going down.
Yep.
Which is good. So the couple we wanted to talk about from the new set, all the Enchanteds. Everything has dropped at least half.
Right, which is expected.
Yes.
Because that happened with the first set, and even first set Enchanteds are dropping now too.
There's a part of me, which is a real part of me, that's about to buy a Namari Enchanted because they are less than 80. And that is very nice. That's a big kitten face that I want to own. So that's the first instance.
Yep.
Beast has maintained.
Gray Beast, yep.
Emo Beast, yeah. He's at 30 right now, which is
where he's been since probably release.
Yeah, down a little bit. So that shows you the power of that card still proving. Arthur has been doing this sort of up and down thing. I remember when he was 6 or 7 when it first came out, and people were like, this card's bad. And
then he was up to 12, then he was up to 20, then he's down to 16, 15.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm big up on those right now. I think that I would cool my jets on those. That's a sell for me. Cinderella is back up to 15. That's the one cost.
Yep.
I feel that she's still going to be a $10 or $8 card, so that's a sell for me as well.
Yeah, if you got some while they were 9, now's the time.
I think Beast, the green Beast at $14, that's a buy for me. I think that's a good price for that.
After the 8 of them that you pulled?
Well, I don't need to buy them. I'm just saying, as one need to buy them. I just keep that card is in every pack as far as I'm concerned. But it's a great card, and I think that it only has room to go up. What do we have for the next page? Because I just want to take one more quick look. Oh,
Scar.
Scar's
at 17 at one point. I think a couple of days ago when I was looking. Scar's really good. I mean, we'll talk about it when we get to later in this cast, but Scar is just a free board wipe if you're playing anything that has low costs.
I agree with that, and I think that that's a pretty good price. That's a buy for me as well. And the last two that I'll quickly mention, Cinderella Stout-Hearted, the 7 cost machine, at $12. I could see that going down a little bit still, but I'm interested to see the fact that it's gone up a little bit. That's the crux of a lot of decks. I think it's going to be a big thing.
Especially Steel Song right now. That's very big in Steel Song.
Let's talk about your friend.
Belle? Oh, we love Belle. Belle went from, what was Belle at?
Oh, wow.
Belle so the set came out.
That was before.
Set came out, 2 weeks before the 1st of December. So that was, gotta look at the calendar now. That was the 17th. So it came out the 17th. So as of the 17th,
she was
$43.
50.
Yeah, $50.
It was day of release.
Day of release, she was 50. Before that, she was
90 for pre-release prices.
Peak of 92. It looked like the peak was at one point. Yep.
And now we are.
And it went from that, so it went to 43. by retail release on the 1st of December. It was 7, which was 20, and it is now, as of it's like been what, almost a week now, almost 2 weeks.
It's $12.
$12. Foil's still holding strong at 41.
Yeah, because again, it's still hard to pull foil rares no matter how many packs you open.
Yep.
I still think it's a solid card.
It's really good, but with so much right now, and the only deck I think it's super viable in
is your deck.
Is really green, like a green-blue deck, because you need with Cogsworth and Aurora, which we can talk about this when we get to deck building stuff. Like, because I'm just thinking about this now, like Cogsworth and Aurora, giving it ward and resist, making it so they can't target it, they have to attack into it. Yeah. Then just makes that card really good.
That's true. I just feel that again, a 5-cost uninkable 3/3 feels bad. When you get it to go off, which I have played around this card multiple times, and it's not that hard to play around. But when you get it to happen, it's backbreaking.
And if you play a deck that kind of teeters out towards the end, you have like 2 cards in your hand and they're not really good, you just go, okay, I'll kill your Bell. And it's like, okay, now you can't turn for 3. You just wasted the Bell. And if you're not playing it in Steel where you're drawing more cards, if you're playing it in like I do in Amber Emerald, and you have nothing in your hand around that time.
That's
it's like,
true.
That's
it's kind of
everything
going to do.
Yeah, it's like.
So anything past that, when you guys go onto your whatever site, we usually use TCG Player. Lady Tremaine, Sisu, the rare Snow White, they've each held some value, but I think those are going to stay at those values. Yeah. Everything else that you see on the board, other than Pinocchio, that's going to drop. Don't buy a $7 rare 3 turn for 3 Pinocchio.
2 cost an inkable 1 turn
silly.
for 3.
But everything else you see here, buy. It's all cheap. That's all of this stuff is going to go up very soon. That's my prediction. Maybe I'm wrong. I would love to be wrong and make this more accessible to people.
Yeah.
But this is what happened with set 1. And then they were all dried up. There seems to be more of this, so it's not going to be as precipitous, but it's still going to happen.
And I mean, the legendary Snow White is still a really good card. 7-cost Madam Mim can be a very good card.
Yeah, there's got to be a deck for it.
Especially
I love Mufasa, and that's
Mufasa's
$6.
Good, yeah.
Heck yeah.
Prince
Although
John
it makes me sad because I bought all mine for 14, but whatever.
Sisu's, I don't know if Sisu will go up.
That's
I don't think
sell. I'll sell Sisu at $8 all day.
Yeah, Sisu's not great.
I think that it's got some places, but also Teeth and Ambitions at 5. I think that's about where it's going to be.
Yeah.
So I don't think that that's a big or take.
Same with Sleepy's
Flute's going to drop. That we'll talk about why that even went up, but we'll talk about that now. Actually,
actually, we'll hit Namari first. Namari will go up. Get Namaris now.
Oh yeah,
Namari is a very good card.
Namari at $4.
Namari,
buy.
In this meta is all right. If you pair it with support like a Maximus, if you're paying it, Steel Song is good. When it gets more support to be able to buff that card, being able to just freely attack characters is going to be silly.
Yeah,
those are something you want to get now. And then we'll touch on first chapter quick. We have most of the enchantments have gone down. The Surfer's Stitch, I was looking at this the other day, went from around the beginning of November, it was $250. It is now down to a market price of $189, but the lowest near mint listing is $148.
Yeah. So all of the enchanteds are dropping, and they're not gonna fly up. They may go up a little, but I feel like they're just leveling out as they should. And they said they're gonna print set 1 into the ground, so technically these will all be worth significantly less. But
Aladdin is one of the ones I'm shocked is so cheap because it's such a good card. Maui is down, which is really cool.
Yeah, 90 for the Maui.
And then other than that, Rapunzel's are at 30. Dragons are at about 30. They're just under 30. Those are cards that will, until set 1 gets a lot more printing, will probably sit around that price. Value.
But it's cool that those have gone down to reasonable levels.
Yes.
And the only other card we were really discussing was Hades.
Hades is down to 16.
Blue Hades is really, really good. I think that's
a buy.
Again, it's a buy on Hades, but all of this is going to go down. So technically all of this is a sell, right?
Right.
So if you're interested in getting into the game, all of the cards that you can really be super interested in are within reach. $15 is what you're, other than Dragons and Rapunzel, everything is 15 and less, which is really healthy for the growth of the game.
I also think 30 for cards like Rapunzel and Dragon, while it's expensive, is reasonable for a card that's that good.
Think of every other card game where there are always those $30 or $40 cards in a set. Yes, and that's a good thing. That's a healthy thing.
Right.
Where it's like, oh, you want to get excited about that card you could open in a pack, as opposed to, majority of them being like, oh, it's only a couple bucks.
Right. Other cards I think are good pickups at this time are Surfer Stitch. That was at 15 at one point.
Surfer Stitch for $4 is insane.
John Silver for $6 is also very good, especially with the bell.
Tinkerbell, and Tinkerbell
Giant Fairy at $7 is very good. Elsa, Purple Elsa, if you want. I mean, we'll talk about the meta, but like some of the top meta decks play that Elsa, and for $12, that Elsa is very good. Other than that, Be Prepareds are down to 6, which is probably where that will sit.
Yeah.
Lilo's and 1-cost Maleficents.
Those are always going to be a couple bucks.
Yep, those are
going to be
$1. Cusco.
Oh my.
$2.
That hurts me. Oh, $2 for a Cusco. That's a great card.
Yeah.
But it's fallen off the grace of love because there's shiny new toys people are playing with.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right.
That being said, so we want to take a little bit of time to talk about the current meta. I know that's not our big focus, but it's what a lot of people are going to want to talk about. So packs. Let's quickly talk about that. That's the biggest opportunity to see what's doing well. And Steel Song won, but not the normal Steel Song that you would think about. I was listening to a separate YouTuber, and they were saying that their list, because they saw it in action, actually the flute, that Happy's flute, which everybody looked at was like, oh, this card is probably not good. And we definitely said that.
Yeah.
Because I apparently can't read. We'll quickly go over it real quick. Sleepy's flute, my bad. 2-cost uninkable. Turn if you
played a song this turn, gain 1 lore.
Thank you for rescuing.
I'm actually pretty sure I'll go back and look. I'm 90% sure this was on my list of like my top 5, and you argued me out of it.
No way.
I swear I said this card was good.
But I'm sad if that's what you said, because
it had to be episode 4 or no, 3. Because
3 would have been the review of that.
So I will have to go check that out.
we'll put the post what we actually find out. Anyway, so the point is you just keep singing with that deck. It's got all the singers in
20 songs.
It says 20 songs in it. It has
Ariel
and Cinderella, all of which can sing above their cost.
Yep. And then there was a note on the list we're looking at that it had 2-0 to hero in the deck, which it costs less to play something for what you have in play.
And this person replaced it with 2 Be Our Guest.
Right. So it's 2 Be Our Guest, 2-0 to hero, 4 Let the Storm Rage On, 4 Strength of a Raging Fire, 4 Whole New World, 4 Grab Your Sword.
So just songs for days. And then all you do is sing, keep everything you have there, doing effectively nothing but protecting and killing things when it gets the opportunity. And you're just gaining resources.
Yeah, so
it's very interesting build.
Something
I'm interested in playing with.
Obviously the 1-drop Cinderella that sings for 3, the 2-cost Cinderella, which is all of those are shift targets for the 7-cost 5 shift Cinderella.
Yeah.
That essentially when you sing a song, which a quarter of your deck is songs, so
a third of your deck
is songs. You can challenge ready characters, so it's like if you have something that's gonna give you a problem,
and she has resist too, so she's not really getting hurt.
Then you have Rockstar Stitch, which shifts into New Dog Stitch, which anytime you play a 2 or less cost, which is going to be if you play those Cinderellas late game.
Yeah.
Or
late game draw if you can play a couple of
things. Or
things.
because you have the Simba Bodyguard, just to throw another one of those down.
You also just don't care if they die, because the whole point of this is to just put Cinderella in play and sing songs.
And both Stitch and Cinderella turn for 3, which is disgusting.
Yes.
Then you have the Queen, which has the 1 cost and the 5 cost, which is essentially a 2 cost because it shifts for 2.
And you can let Cinderella smash for 9 on something. Doesn't hurt.
The Queen is really good because it takes away 4 from something too. So you can sing with Ariel, quest with the Queen to give Cinderella 9 and take 4 away and just kill something for free, essentially.
Just take out a Surfer Stitch without taking any damage.
And that's it. I mean, it's a very 36 cards, 20 songs, and 4 items. I mean, that's a very
it's
very
low
standard
to the ground.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing.
And it's not one of those decks where it's like, oh, I can do this or this. It's literally you want this, and this.
I can do this thing, and that's what I can do. But it covers a lot of situations.
Yeah.
All those songs are mostly kill spells.
Yeah.
And card draw. So I think that's really interesting. One of my favorite kind of meta-ish decks right now is red purple. Obviously Amethyst and Ruby is always a meta deck, but I'm specifically talking about my version.
Yep.
Or some of the versions around it, which is the bounce version.
Yep.
It's I use Aladdin.
Yep. Both Aladdins, the shift and the one that you lose a lore when it comes into play.
So it's so great to put the one that you lose a lore when it comes into play, because they lose the lore, then you end up turning for one the next turn, bouncing it to your hand, playing it again. So you're just getting all these lore swings, and then if not, it's in play. And if they turn their guys, you're like, okay, now I shift. Right. I kill that thing, and now you lose 2 and I gain 2.
Right.
It's just kind of a lot of answers with that. I get to play with the Arthur that I really like. There's a bunch of kill spells in there. There's Lady Tremaine. There's Be Prepared, Maui. You have so many options, and then you always have that Madam Mim engine, where you're just playing things and never having any real interactions with that your opponent is able to do, because you can just keep bouncing it back. And there's the fox that can rush in for 4. There's the snake that's a 3/3. It's just so many different pieces that it's hard to catch up with, and you have an answer for just about everything.
Right.
However, it's a tiny bit slow and can be a tiny bit clunky.
Yeah.
But once you get up and running, my version also runs the 8-cost Elsa. And you know what feels really good? 8-cost Elsa, bounce her to your hand with, I don't know, Arthur would be silly. And then play the 8-cost Elsa again. Same with Lady Tremaine. You're just getting uses out of these entry effects that are so powerful.
It also exerts characters. So with your Aladdin, you exert, and then you attack, steal their lore.
Because I have the Pinocchio that exerts. So just all of the things that you're playing are just, you're messing with your opponent, and your opponent thinks they're safe, and you're like, all right, I'm actually going to Pinocchio that down. I'll kill it with the Madam Mim. It's got a lot of answers, and it's a lot of fun to play.
Yeah. So then we have so now I found the standings for PAX Unplugged, because I didn't know that was a thing, because it's not like Pokemon with Limitless where you can just go. Sure. So the website we're using is inkdex.com. If anyone's interested at looking at these, because, like Pokemon, you go to Limitless. I don't know what you do for other games. So the second place deck was Red Purple.
It's a similar.
Does not play the Dragons, which is one of those cards that I feel like a lot of Red Purple plays.
Yeah.
It's got 4 Arthurs, 4 Be Prepares, 4 Friends on the Other Side, 4 Lady Tremaines, the LaFoes with Fan the Flames.
That's so good.
Fox's Snakes, the Maleficent to draw a card, Maui's, because Maui's just a free kill spell. The Goat, the Rabbit, Evasive 3-cost Minnie Mouse. I do think that's a pretty good card, because between that and the Pascal, if they don't have Evasive, a way to deal or bounce, it's free lore.
I would rather in that spot have the 2-cost
Aladdin?
Nope. That's a 3-cost.
Pinocchio?
No, let me talk. The 2-cost Queen of Hearts. Because you just have an offensive piece. I guess you don't need this source of, in my opinion, you don't need that source of lore. But
it's also it hits evasives, which is
for one. Reason. Okay, cool.
Any of the
Olaf, Pascal, and Yzma are all interesting. I ended up really not using a lot of the 1 cost. I just don't care that much. I don't mind just slapping something down and getting started at 2. But I do have the Pascals, because they're just easy to use, and they cost 1 to put down, and you can use them to do some bounce shenanigans. But
and Yzma's really good. Yeah, it shuffles it when you play this character. Shuffle another chosen character card into their player's deck, then draw 2 cards.
You can use it on your own guys most of the time. Yep. But if there's like a threat you just need to get rid of, here you draw 2 cards.
I've had someone do that to me with my Cinderella. I shifted into Cinderella. They go, okay, I'm going to Yzma you.
Yeah. And it feels bad. You like drawing 2 cards eases the pain a little, but you still lost what you were trying to use.
Right, and it does shuffle, so at least you have a chance. So then,
you've been building Popsicle. So why don't you?
Yes.
That's one of the other 2 I'd like to discuss.
Yes, I was going to say the rest of the decks are about. Most of them are red purple.
Oh, you're talking about packs.
Yeah, the only difference between this one is it runs the 2-cost 3 turn for 3 Pinocchio and a Shield of Virtue, which I do think Shield of Virtue is a really good card.
Look, it's bounce, 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 bounce,
and then Popsicle top 8. So we'll talk about Popsicle.
Yes.
So this one, oh wow, this is actually a lot different than I thought it would be. So this Popsicle is one of those decks. If you don't start Popsicle, you lose.
Kind of, yeah.
No, you want to start Popsicle. This one is a little interesting. So it runs the Bell Strange but Special, which during your turn, you can put an additional card from your hand into your Inkwell face down, which is really good. Then you also have, when you have 10 or more cards in your Inkwell, it gets +4, so it turns for 5.
When you have 10 lore.
Or 10 ink, which, to be fair, in this deck, you're ramping pretty fast to have that.
I guess.
3, Develop Your Brain.
Why would you put 1, Let It Go?
I don't know.
Putting a 1 of in this game does not make sense. 1 of Scar. Don't.
Right. Scar, I think, should be at least a 2 of in all of these decks. Scar is a free board wipe. during this turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you may ready this character. He can't quest for the rest of the turn. Okay.
You're not trying to quest with him. You're trying to kill him.
It's slightly worse Green Beast because A, it's not inkable, and B, it's only when he kills something. But as a 6/5, he's just a more expensive Maui that can't attack on the first turn. Or he has Rush, so he can.
Yeah, so it's a more complicated Maui. It's exact same stats as Maui, except for if you want, he can turn for 2, which we love.
And he also readies, so he can essentially, if you're playing like...
So he kills 2 things instead of 1.
Right, and if you're playing Amber Amethyst and you're Bounce and they're just playing Bounce, or even if they're just playing like aggro and they have like Lilo, Simba.
Yeah, you can get a bunch of kills on those
kill, Popsicle, heal yourself. You can Nick Wild to get the Popsicle back, kill.
Presumably, if they have all of those in play, however, and you are able to kill them, that means they've turned with them, and you're probably still going to lose. That being said, you know what it doesn't kill? Cindy. It's 7 cost Cindy. He hits her for he just hits her. He dies to her. She's like, ugh! And she takes 4 damage and is not happy, but Scar still dies.
Right. But that's why you have Maleficent to kill.
Yes, that's what Maleficent does.
So we have Rob's favorite card, Scepter of Arendelle.
I love that card.
Chosen character gains support. So I guess if you can kill Cindy if you use the Scepter.
Sure. You just have to support.
You take it from Maleficent.
You support with Hiram Flavor Jam, and you can do an even trade.
Or with Maleficent. So it's
so it's 13-5. That feels good. The only other one I want to talk about is Hyper Aggro. So this is something that is really, I say it's Matt's love child because he was the one who was talking to me about it. But he and I sat down and did have a lot of talk about this deck. It revolves around as many cheap things as you can get your eyeballs on and just getting them out really fast. He has a really high uninkable count. I believe his is 18.
Yeah, I think that's what I remember you guys talking about that.
The one that I built with his that's very similar is 16. It runs 4 of the 1-cost Lilos, 4 of the 1-cost Maleficent, 4 of the 2-cost Pinocchio. So that's 12 right there, each of which of those turns for an inordinate amount of lore. So there's 2 for the first 2 and 3 for the last one. So you're just turning as fast as possible. You don't care about attacking. He was upset because he didn't want to put another card in his deck that was 4 cost. He says bring it low to the. I think it's a really interesting idea. I've been playing it on the ladder. It does really well.
Yeah, and his whole thing is he wants to get to 4 lore and not have to ink anything. It's like I have all these uninkables. I want to be able to get to 4 and just keep playing.
And just play a card every single turn or multiple cards.
Yes.
And he has the bounce package to keep things alive. It's a lot of fun, and it is so hard to beat.
Yeah.
If you get set up, your opponent really has to either be playing gray or you have to just not draw well because you're gonna outpace them. Yes, you can burn out really quick with that because you're just playing so many cheap cards. But you've turned for 8 or 10 by turn 2 or 3 if everything's turn 3 really. Yeah. If everything is working the way it's supposed to be, and that's backbreaking. And then as he and I were discussing, you just play the goat. Yeah. And then you just goat your way to victory. Yeah. And I find it a very interesting. Even late game, because I built mine with a little bit of late game tools. I have the 6-cost Stitch in mind because it turns for 3. And also you can get some extra card draw if you really need to, although the whole point of that is to put everything so that it is not exerted. But even with that stipulation, I think it's still a good card in that deck while quote-unquote slow. I still play the 1-cost Stitch in mind, so you can shift it for the 4-cost shift, which is fine. Yeah. But I really, really like that deck. I would never have thought of it if I hadn't talked with him about it. So I got to give him the shout out. So Mac, good job on that one. It's a really fun deck that I've been enjoying playing with. And also now whenever I build a deck, I'm like, what does it do against Hyper Aggro? Yeah. Because I feel like that's going to catch on a little bit more because it is so aggressive. Right. But it folds to steal, which is a very, very common color. So you got to take your goods and your bads.
And it's and that's the nice thing. It's like game of rock, paper, scissors in the meta right now. It's like you can have this deck that wins against these 3 things, but then it hard loses to these other things. So it's like I went to a tournament Wednesday and I played Steel Song, but I played red, blue, red, purple. So it's like I got crushed because I can't do anything
there. Tough against those.
Right. So it's like it's one of those things. If you just have to know essentially what it's kind of one of those things of like going to your locals and having to know like what people are going to bring.
Know what the locals meta is.
And sometimes it's such a mixed bag that you can't. You just have to hope you get. And sometimes it's like, okay, everyone's playing this one deck. It's doing really good. Should I tech for this? And it's like, if you do, then you normally do really well.
Right. Well, I think that it's interesting because it destroys Popsicle. And I love a deck that destroys actually destroys red in general, because red needs to get set up over a few turns, and this is just going balls to the wall.
Right, which is one of those things of how is Ravensburger going to print more cards that help decks like this? Because
eventually,
like we'll talk about it when we talk about some of the leaks from set 3. This will be like Matt said, he wins on turn 3, turn 4.
Right.
Like
what happens I either win turn 4 or I lose.
Like what happens when you win turn 3? It's like that's really scary.
Yeah,
it's like
it's slightly possible. Yeah. There's going to just be more aggro cards.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a way to fight them too.
Yes.
I'm not sure what it is yet. I do love dropping a giant tank when there's 3 things that die in one shot. That feels really nice. But other than that, it's pretty impressive. It's hard to do, but it's a really fun deck. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah.
So that kind of bleeds into our next section, which is the cooking time.
Yeah.
So that is a deck that we have been brewing.
Yep.
But personally, I have been still honing my Green Beast deck. Love that deck.
I also think Green Beast is one of those it was very hyped up when it came out, especially by the two of us. Mm-hmm. And it didn't really do much. Like, I don't think it...
I have started to, again, I worked with Josh about making a couple of changes.
Yep.
It does a lot. The biggest problem is red in general. Any red deck, it's hard to beat. And I put a lot of pieces into it that have made it much more viable.
Right.
And so then I've been working on that. You've been working on Popsicle.
Yep.
Your version of it. What are your little tweaks?
I run the Aurora, which gives things ward because people like the Tamatoa. And like I was talking to Matt, because Matt's like our resident Popsicle expert aside from doing the hyper aggro.
Yeah.
And he was like, I took the Tamatoa out. He said, because that late in the game when you're getting it out, he's like, it just gets killed. Which is true. So it's like, sure, the Aurora is a 5 cost and it prevents everything from getting targeted. So it's like your Flavor Sham, which is a 1/6, can't get Maleficent. They have to play.
That's
Be prepared.
True. You have to actually fight through it.
Right. So it's like, it just kind of makes everything more of a problem. It's like this thing can sit on the board and do things like the Winnie the Pooh can turn. You now have to attack into it. You can't just banish it.
I see what you're saying.
So it's one of those things of, because the it's an 8 cost. It's one of those things of you want it to stay.
To survive,
and when you have so many items, you can play it and not use it right away because you have all these items. Once you have all the items, then it's like, okay, you turn for 5 or even 6 if you have that many items.
I just don't think that it gets immediately killed. I don't necessarily agree with that. If you're playing against red, sure, it's going to get dragon fired or dragoned. But other than that, it's very difficult to kill with any other color when it hasn't at least exerted once.
Or unless it's gray with Cinderella. That's it.
But Cinderella still doesn't kill it. She's a 5/5. He's a 5/8.
Oh, is he? Wow.
So he'll just absorb a hit.
Yeah.
And you're going to get to turn with it. So I don't know that it's that easy to kill, but protecting it's great, and protecting anything in that deck is good. Right. I do like that as a little tech. But speaking of Sapphire, I have a Sapphire build myself. Working on my Sapphire Steel list with Alice.
I was gonna say, speaking of Steel and Cinderella, or Sapphire and Cinderella.
Yeah, so she comes out quick. I use Alice because I really like the interactions with everything having support.
Right.
So even your little guys are just smashing really big. It's not necessarily just to pump up the Alice for the big swing, but you can. I agree that if you're running like a pure Alice build, you want to run it with the Queen so that it's the +4 and she gains +8 and only needs 1 more, so it's different. But I have no problem having 2 or 3 things in play, turning all of those to do something cool, and then getting a big swing with Alice or even killing something. I was playing online, and I actually, speaking of Tamatoa, did kill a Tamatoa because the Alice was a 12/3 or whatever she is. So that was really cool. I really like that. I'm having a lot of fun trying to ramp into this. It's bad against hyper aggro. It is fine against most other decks. Not good against Amber Steel Songs. That one definitely takes me. It just does what I'm trying to do with my deck a little bit faster. It doesn't have the protection that my deck does because I run an Aurora, I run a Cogsworth to just kind of like protect everything in all the ways. But it's a lot of fun. I've been enjoying that. But I think that there's still a lot of different decks to be discovered. It's still too early, but there are the sort of leaders in that.
All right. So also in the past week since we've recorded an episode, Disney has went and revealed some very small things, but most of it was product from Set 3. So they revealed
Into the Inklands.
Yes, into the Inklands. They've revealed the starter decks, which are going to be Ruby Sapphire and Amber Emerald.
Yep.
Which look pretty cool. There's going to be another trove. There's going to be 2 mats. One is Moana. Which you guys can look these up. But it's gonna be Moana. It's her standing on a cliff looking over some water, and then
seems thematic.
Stitch, which I love Stitch, and I'm happy he's getting a mat. Not a nice looking mat. He's in like some robot suit and he's flying. It's all right, but there was a card that got leaked, not revealed by them, of Stitch in like a Hawaiian shirt and sunglasses that would look so much better on a play mat.
Interesting.
But I'll still buy it because it's Stitch. I love Stitch. And then other than that, we got it's very like the set's very yellow. Like we had the first set was like purplish, and then last set was like dark blue.
Oh, you mean like
the color is like all the packaging is very bright yellow, which is nice. I think it definitely sticks out when you're out looking for Lorcana, which this is supposed to be the set we get like a decent
amount of production.
So when you walk into Target and there's this blinding yellow stuff on the shelf, you'll know what it is.
I have smiles on my face.
So they did reveal deck boxes. So they had deck boxes from DuckTales and Treasure Planet.
And 101 Dalmatians.
And 101 Dalmatians.
Love DuckTales. I'm so happy about it.
I know.
DuckTales.
We talked, I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast, but we definitely talked together about DuckTales being...
about my Worlds game.
Yes, about Rob's, that we talked about last time.
Worlds, my format.
Yes, we talked about DuckTales, and that was one of the things that we did talk about with DuckTales.
Yes, because otherwise, where do you put Donald Duck? Where do you put Daisy Duck? You just... in the Disney character family? Because again, same thing with like Minnie, Mickey... You could do Minnie, Mickey, Goofy, Donald, Pete. Like you could do them as their own, but that one's been a little bit iffy. It's trying to figure out what that is.
So then we had 3 cards revealed: a common, a silver rare, and a rare, super rare, and a common.
We can't talk about that just yet because we have to talk about the more important thing.
Yes. So they revealed locations.
Yes. So there's a new card type, locations. It's effectively stadiums in Pokemon. Let's quickly talk about them.
Yes.
All right. So they come into play in what looks like exerted because they're sideways. The art on them is sideways, but they're never active, so they're always exerted. The reason that they're always exerted is they have a willpower. The one that they showed us is Forbidden Mountain Maleficent's Castle. It is a 2-cost inkable location. It has one, which we don't know what the name of that symbol is, but that is the cost to move a character over. And it has 6 willpower and 1 lore. So what locations do in this game is they are literally just that. They are a location.
Right.
You pay the cost to put the location into play, and then you can move any of your characters that you want to that location by paying the move cost, whatever it is. And then either the character says something on it that it does, or the location itself says something on it that it does. But long story short, it doesn't give you any sort of protection.
Yep.
It doesn't really do much other than exist.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, for instance, just has 1 lore. It's just a location. It doesn't seem to do anything. But that being said, now we can talk about the 3 cards that were revealed.
Yeah, so
I can't do it here. I'm trying to...
One thing I did want to touch on, just from like, they did... Lorcana, the people that work there at Ravensburger, did a little info session. So they talked about some stuff. So some of the stuff is, one of the things they said was when your character is at the location, it's signified by putting the card under the location.
Under location? That's annoying.
So yeah, it's a little annoying, but that's how they want it. And then you don't have a limit on characters. Locations are protected from Be Prepared. Not the characters, they're just the locations, because it specifies characters.
Again, every card in the game so far specifies characters. So I don't know. People are asking a question. Oh, can you whole new world this? Actually, not whole new. Excuse me. Can you Be Prepared this? Can you let it go this? No, you can't. They all say characters on them. So I don't know why there's all these questions.
It's also Bodyguard does not protect it, even though it does have a willpower. Bodyguard does not protect it. Rapunzel cannot heal it.
Yes. Again, specifies character.
Yes. When you have we'll go into that. So one of the we'll talk about the first character because it segues, is the 4-cost 3/3 inkable Peter Pan Lost Boy Leader. And once per turn, when this character moves to a location, you gain lore equal to the location's lore symbol. So location, Maleficent's Mountain, has a 1 lore symbol.
So you can pay 1 to move Peter Pan to the mountain,
And-
and you get 1 lore.
Right. And then you don't have to be, that's the other thing. So your characters do not have to be dry. So you can play them and then move them right to the location. Over. So it does help with that, like we were talking about, red cannot bounce you before you can even move it to the location.
Right. So that's a survival card, which is which we were going to do this segment. We're going to move that to next week's episode.
So then we have 2-cost Inkable Piglet, Pooh Pirate Captain. He is a 2/2 silver rare. While you have two or more other characters in play, this character gets +2 ink or lore. He turns for 1. All of them turn for 1. I remember looking at it.
Yes, they do. So then if you have 2 characters in play, he turns for 3 at a 2 cost. That's pretty good. Yeah. He's inkable. He's going to die as soon as he gets turned once, but that's fine. You're getting 3 out of him for 2, and that's perfectly legitimate.
Yeah.
And then how much does the Minnie Mouse cost? Is it 1 or 2?
It is 1. It is a 1 cost. It is a 0, 3, 2, 3?
I think that's a 3.
I think that's a 3.
Yeah. So it's a 1 cost, 0, 3, Minnie Mouse, Funky Spelunker, which is a great name. Journey, while this character is at a location, she gets 2 power. So she goes from a 0/3 to a 2/3. So you're paying technically 2 for a 2/3 that does 2/3 things.
Would you like to read the dad joke in the flavor text?
Yes.
Go ahead.
She'll never cave under pressure.
It is a 0/3. I just checked. Yeah.
Okay.
So then the other card I'll talk about just because it was leaked. So a lot of some of set 3 stuff. So set 2 was originally leaked before it even got announced. So that's why a lot of people are speculating.
Because they were in packs. I was told that some of the set 3 cards were in packs. I was trying to read it.
Oh, so set 2, I don't remember how set 2 leaked. I think it was the same way, but set 3, a lot of it was in packs. And last time the whole stuff got leaked. So a lot of it was in packs. So we're not going to touch on all of it.
Oh God, that's mean.
But we're going to talk about this Stitch that I think should have been the artwork for the playmat. And because it's, actually readable and not like one of those things where you're like looking at it like, huh? It is a 5-cost inkable Stitch Covert Agent. He is a 3/3 evasive. He turns for 2. We love that, and we love Stitch. His ability Hide. When this character is at a location, he gains Ward.
So he has evasive and Ward if he's at a location, which makes him nigh impossible to interact with.
I like Stitch.
That's crazy. So Ward at all times and evasive. What is it missing? I don't know. You have to attack it with. You have to attack it with an evasive character. It's the only way to kill it. So as soon as you hide that thing, if they do not have an answer for evasive, you win.
Yeah. So I assume
over a long period of time. Yes.
I do not like that.
Yeah.
No, but whatever. It's very yellow.
I love yellow.
Yeah, yellow's pretty cool.
So I'm excited for what that is. I think it's too early to get excited about set 3 when set 2 is literally just in our laps.
Oh, so
but they're giving us the information.
Release date quick. Yeah. Local game store release date is the 23rd of February.
Okay.
And the retail release is March 3rd. It's 2 weeks after. So there's the 23rd. It's the 8th. So it's the 8th. I was way off.
Okay. So that's
reasonable.
That is not. That's soon. I feel, but
it is.
Are they doing an accelerated pace? Do you know why? It's supposed to be 4 sets.
4 sets a year. So it's
going to be February, May, August, and November.
Yeah. So I still think it should be 3 sets, and I
agree. It should be 3 sets.
3 sets makes. I think pumping this stuff out, and once and I think we talked, or maybe I talked about this with one of our other friends. Once they fix the stock issues of this game, 3 months will be fine.
Yes.
But especially for this right now, where everyone's still struggling to get set 2 right now, everyone's just starting to get set 2 and finally start doing more creative deck stuff.
Yeah.
It's midway through December now.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
You have, we'll say end of December because of Christmas. That's when everyone's finally going to open most of it. And I think that's when everything's going to start being like, okay, gone.
Yes. And then you have 2 months and then another set drops.
Barely even 2 months, right? And then you have another set. And it's like, even if that fixes it, you're just getting your hands on. And it's like, it just feels like
it's a little too fast.
It's a little fast. It doesn't feel like it gives the meta time to develop fast enough. And especially when there's tournaments, if they do it.
That's the thing that I wanted to touch on, the fact that they are doing these constructed, like, formal tournament structures that they want to do. And they've accelerated the pace of that. I feel that maybe that's one of the reasons they're coming out with quite so many cards right out of the gate. It's exciting for a lot of reasons, and not the least of which I'm excited to get more cards for my sort of thematic deck ideas here, or for the format that I had discussed. So you get more. Okay, now there's 3 more cards in Lilo and Stitch. Now maybe that's the game you want to, or game, the movie you want to incorporate. So that's really fun. But I feel that it's a slippery slope where you can get into some power creep too.
Yeah.
And if you power creep too early in this game, then it's going to be unobtainable.
Yeah.
So they apparently already have this 7 or 8 set plan already done.
Right.
Which
it just
it's ideally been balanced.
And it's one of those things that I mean, like we've said 100 times now, we come from Pokemon, or at least I come from a Pokemon background, and I don't think you competed in Final Fantasy.
Nope.
Pokemon has regionals that happen a couple every month. If Disney's releasing new sets, I don't know how the legality of that works. I know Pokemon's is 2 weeks after set release, which might be the same thing with Lorcana. But also, since there's 2 separate releases, I don't know how they categorize that. It's also a matter of you'd go to maybe 3 tournaments with 1 deck, and then it's like, okay, now the entire meta shifts, which isn't terrible, but having it every 3 sets a year instead of 4, I think just makes it so you can actually sit there and bring different things. It's like someone can crack the code and make this really cool deck that counters a lot of stuff, and then a new set comes out, and it's like this deck basically is null because now you have all these new cards.
I agree with that, and the other point is the whole money thing, where if you're going to spend money to make a deck shiny or to get that rare that's really expensive in this game, and you're like, oh, then you don't even run that deck.
Yeah.
Or something comes out in a set 2 months later that is the same card but slightly better. That card that you just spent the money on is worthless.
Right.
I mean, that's, again, any game does that. But I guess the scales are easier to tip when there's not that many cards yet.
Yeah.
But also, the more cards that come out, the more deck ideas we can get going.
Yeah.
And then I love that as well. So,
all right. So now we are going to go right into
our last little segment here, which we were talking about. So, for the last kind of send off of the review, we had decided to do the top 5 performing cards that we we either really like or we think are really good for each color. And 1 disappointment from we were doing all these talks, we were doing all these reviews, and then having played with the cards and really had a chance to access them, what has not been really up to snuff.
So we started episode 2, we did our top 5 cards, we ranked them, and then
but that was what was out. We didn't even have all
right. That was and then we did the set review for 3 sets. So now we're going to look back after having these cards for a while. And we're going to pick out what we think.
And you said you wanted to start with
so I can start with Amber. So not in any particular order.
No, just kind of fine. Just do
go.
Top 5.
I'm just going to go.
Tell me why they are.
So my top 5. We'll start with Cinderella, the 1 cost. Obviously, not much. I mean, there's a lot to talk about with that card, but I feel like we've said a lot of it. It's very good. Steel Song. It's been very prominent. It sings for 3. And it's a It's a cheaper shift target for the 5 cost Cinderella. I don't know if that's on your list. If you,
we'll talk about it when we get to my list.
So next up, I have the Mufasa. I think the Mufasa is a really good card. A lot of people don't like that card, but I think when it's banished, other than Blue Hades and Let It Go, everything banishes. So especially in a deck that runs a lot of characters, you flip over the top card of your deck. If it's a character, it could be an 8 cost. It could be 10/10 Goofy. That's a 9 cost. Throw that thing right into play. It's just a really good card. I think it turns for 2. You get the lore out of it, and it's like you want it killed. You don't want it to sit and play for a long time. You just want it gone. So next up, I have the Queen.
Which one?
The Queen Commanding Presence, the 5 cost for 3. This is probably my favorite card from Yellow this set.
Okay.
It's a 4/3, so you don't really like turning with it a lot, other than when you're using it to give something +4 and -4.
Just give some crazy swing.
It just especially with the card I like from Green that we'll talk about.
Okay.
It's just really good. And then Sleepy's Flute, I mean, is doing very well performing right now. And as I talked about on episode 3,
get
ahead
of yourself.
Sleepy's Flute's a really good card. And especially in Steel Song, where you're playing so many songs, being able to gain that lore 2-3 at a time just really puts pressure on your opponent, because you could have nothing in play and be at 18 lore and play Whole New World and turn for 2, and there's the game. You can win without a character in play.
That's actually pretty cool.
And then my last card, which is actually probably a little shocking since I don't really talk about it a lot, is the Mickey Mouse. When I look through all the cards, it's not a super well performing card, but I think it has the most potential of any of these cards, because it's a 6 cost, which is a little expensive, but it's a 1/6, which isn't super desirable. But it turns for 3.
Love that.
Whenever this character quests, you pay 3 less for the next character you play. That makes a lot of things. That makes your Mufasa a 2 cost.
That makes your dragon a 6 cost.
Right. Being able to cheat things into play right now for a reasonable price it just feels really good. And even in just turning for 3, you get 1 turn out of it and pay 3 less.
If you turn 2 Mickeys, you get to play a free Mickey.
Right, exactly.
Which is really kind of cool. I have it in my healing deck. I do love that card. That's very interesting that you
that's
that.
New. So on Dreamborn, when you click, it shows the most popular decks that run this card on their website.
Interesting. So those are some interesting picks. So I'll do what my 5 are. I agree with the Cinderella.
Yep.
Singing for 3 on a 1 cost can do some silly things, and the whole point of that deck is to do silly singing things. So you can't not give a nod to that card.
Mm-hmm.
My next card is Doc. I really, really like Doc. Of all the dwarfs, I think he can be played outside of any dwarf deck. He can just be played by himself. He's a 3 cost. He turns for 2, which we love, and he's just a baby Mickey. He makes things cost 1 less when he quests.
Yeah.
So you're turning for 2 if nothing else.
Right.
But to just get a little shave off of the cost on something, you can play something a turn earlier than people would be expecting to handle it.
Yeah. Pair that with the Mickey.
I do actually, but it's been performing very well for me. And again, it turns for 2, so it's a nice. You just keep turning with it. Like they kill it, fine. They're wasting resource on something that's not really doing anything, but you might get a little extra out of it. My next card is the Mufasa, which I said from the beginning was one of my favorite cards in this entire set, but definitely my favorite Amber card. You know what I love is when somebody does Be Prepared when I have Mufasa, because it's very thematic because he's getting killed by Scar, and you just get to replace it with something. Who cares what it is? Now, if you hit something off the top that's not a character, okay, sad face, it happens.
But if you could, especially if you cheat an expensive character into play,
they just paid 7 to.
And if they didn't sing it, it's probably their entire turn. They pass, and now you
have something in play.
Yes,
I think it does a lot of fun things, and I'm still trying to find a way to break that card open. I do have a cool combo that I will talk about next week that is in there. And so then my next 2 cards are actually the Queen and the Queen.
Both of them?
Yes, I agree with you on the 4/3 Queen. I haven't quite seen what she does yet. I know she's powerful. I haven't seen her really broken wide open yet, but it's a really, really cool card. And the 1 cost Queen facilitates it. Yeah. So she has the shift 2. So you can have a 4/3 that does silly things and turns for 2 on turn 2.
Right.
If you have the 1 cost Queen on turn 1. And I think those 2 together, they got both sides. I was going to give it to 0 to Hero because I like that card, but I don't like that card enough. And I actually think that I'm becoming less enamored with that card. And I can't give any credit to Sleepy's Food because I don't know anything about Sleepy's Food, apparently. So I had to give it to the Queen, but I really, really like what it has done for Amber and what it can do in the future.
Yes.
And what was your 1 card that you were super disappointed in this set? Or this color, excuse me.
Play-wise, I think mine is the King Louis, specifically on the rarity of it.
Okay.
Normally, when you look at rarity cards, you look at the higher rarity they get. They normally get more expensive, but they also have more powerful abilities. Mufasa's a legendary, but its ability is super powerful.
Yeah.
King Louis is a silver rare, and all it does is you heal 2 damage when another character is banished, which is good, but that's not really great. And for a 7 cost silver rare, like Mickey is a silver rare, but at least that's helping you cheat characters into play. Like it was a waste of a.
Giant Tink is a silver rare.
Right, and that's really impactful. Like this just feels super unimpactful to the game.
Yeah, there's maybe something that's going to make that useful. And actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because the card that I'm the most disappointed in is the 5 cost Rapunzel.
Ooh,
I
like
was
that
big
card.
on that card. I still want that card to be used, but there's not enough healing to go around that you're going to be getting enough card draw out of it. Yeah. It feels like a slot that you just want to ink it rather than do the shift.
Right.
I feel that there's something there still, but I've been disappointed. I've taken it out of the 2 decks that I had it in because it's just too slow. It's not doing what I need it to do. You would think, card draw's the dream, but it didn't get me there. So I'll start off for my favorite 4 Amethyst.
Yep.
Number 1 and the first card in there is Arthur.
Yep.
I was big on this card from the beginning, and people are like, it's not that good. And guess what? It's really flapping good, guys. It turns for 1. Who cares? But it bounces something to your hand to turn for 2 more. And bouncing stuff to your hand, as we have learned, is extremely powerful. It becomes a lightning rod. Who cares? You're still got your 3 and your bonus bounce out of it. If you can keep them alive for another turn to do it again, it's silly. It's really silly with a goat.
Yep, we like the goat. Turns for 1, bounces for 1.
It comes into play for 1. You turn it for 1 to gain 1. You bounce it to your hand to gain 1 and 2 more. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And you quest with Arthur, so you're getting 7.
No, that's the 6.
Oh, that's the 6. Okay.
It's just a really cool card. The next card, and my favorite card in this color, is Madam Mim Fox. I was only a little excited about this card, and then I just started using it, and it again bounced, which we originally thought, or at least I originally thought,
I think
was not
both
good.
of us thought that was really bad originally. It's like
expensive wise.
Yeah, I think we both gave all of the cards that bounce when they come into play bad. At least I remember giving them bad ratings.
Probably. I don't remember where I wasn't super sold on it, but I'm super sold on it
because I don't think we really looked at it in the way of that most people did look at it. I think we just looked at it as this character's bad. You have to play something or kill something else.
Yeah, and the good thing about this card is you're bouncing whatever you want and things that you're doing advantageously, and that's not a word. And it has rush. So you're bouncing something and you're interacting with something.
Right.
So you can do some really silly turns with that card. Consequently, the next one I would like to discuss is the Madam Mim Snake.
Yep.
Not quite as good as the Fox, in my opinion. It is a 2 cost and still a 3/3. So you got a nice big body on a 2 cost with the bounce now, which we realize not being a detriment. Although you have this in your hand, it's the only card in your hand, you can't play it. So that is where those cards kind of fall off a little bit. But it's just a really good card, and I don't mind throwing that snake at anything. Dealing 3 damage or something. Oh no, I lost a 2 cost, or it's technically a little bit more because you have to bounce something. But,
yeah. What's next? I wonder what's next, Rob.
The goat.
Really? Wait. So I just realized you said Madam Mim Fox was your favorite card over the goat.
Yeah. Guess what breaks the goat open? Madam Mim Fox. So the goat is fantastic. It can steal games. We were talking about in Hyper Aggro, it's like once you get to 16 or so, you drop a goat, the game's effectively over. It's just, I love the goat. I loved it from the beginning. I still love it. It's just, I like Madam Mim more because I don't know if I feel like Madam Mim and goats are going to go in every Amethyst deck I make forever. But the Madam Mim is just kind of enabling a little bit more than the goat is, although you can steal games with it. So it was a very close tie, to be fair, but I have to give it to Madam Mim because I think it's a little more useful. And my last pick is a very unpopular card, and it's the 2-cost Pinocchio Talkative Puppet. This is not the 2-cost that turns for 3. This is the 2-cost that when you play it, you exert chosen opposing character. I use this in my bounce deck. I think this is an underutilized card. Being able to exert something means, guess what? You can then interact with it. You can then kill it. Oh, I'm protecting things. I'm so cool with my bouncy shenanigans. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm still turning your 2-cost Pinocchio that has 1 butt, and I'm flicking it in the nose that it's been lying, and it dies. So I think it just really opens up a slot to maybe not use a kill spell when you would otherwise need
to.
So I really, really like that card.
Yeah, so my first one was also Arthur. I mean, you touched on everything Arthur does. Arthur's just really good.
Yeah.
After Arthur, the Fox is on there too, but I'm gonna leave the Fox off my list because you did it, and I want to talk about some other cards.
Sure.
One of my cards that I still really like, and I'm still very disappointed has not seen a ton of play, is Peter Pan's Shadow.
Okay.
I loved this card when it came out. I still think this is very good. It has rush, it has evasive. It's a 2/3. It's a 4-cost uninkable, which sucks, but it turns for 2. Your other characters with rush also gain evasive, so they can challenge evasive characters.
Yeah.
And if you don't challenge with them, if you just turn with them, like if you leave the Fox in and you turn it, it also has evasive. So you don't have to turn with Peter Pan. You just turn with something that has rush, and it also can't get hit by evasive.
Fox, a pretty cool thing. Yeah.
Right, which we were just talking about that green Stitch that got revealed. This can help kill that Stitch if you just throw this in a deck.
This might stonks right there.
This
is going to go up when they need to kill Stitches.
So the other card that I think is really good is the Yzma, Scary Beyond All Reason. The 6-cost inkable 4/4, turns for 2. We love that. Shifts for 4. When you play this character, shuffle another chosen character card into their player's deck. The player draws 2 cards. We touched on it a little earlier.
Yeah.
Just very good to be able to bounce something off the board like that.
It opens up some play lines that you wouldn't have thought you had.
Yeah.
And it's a kill spell. It's not a great kill spell, but it's something you don't mind using on your own cards. Like, I want to draw 2 cards, and I'm going to bounce a a goat. Yeah,
Yeah.
just great. I gained one out of it as well. So I think that does have some application.
The 2-cost Pinocchio that turns for 3 is still very good. It's definitely at the lower end of my list because I think it's just a worse Maleficent, Purple Maleficent. Yes,
Yeah.
it does the same thing Lilo and Maleficent do for 1 more, but playing it on, you really want to play that turn 1, get rid of it turn 2. Playing it turn 2 is fine because I've seen people play it, turn with it, bounce it, play it back down, which works.
Yep.
It's just still it's an all right card. I do think it's up there with the talk. I think the Talkative Puppet is also really good.
What's your last one?
And my last one it was between these two, the Fairy Godmother, which I really like, but I'm giving it to Hey Hey.
Yes, Hey Hey.
Because Hey Hey is a 2-cost 2/1, but it always goes back to your hand. There's, as far as I know, other than Let It Go in the Hades, there's no way to get rid of that card. Every time it gets banished, it goes to your hand.
No, every time it gets banished in a challenge, return it to your hand.
So most of the time,
still, that's the thing you're going to do with it.
Right, you just kill things or put damage on things, and then put it back in your hand and play it again.
I wish there was a way to give it rush, because that card would be ridiculous. But yes,
you can. The White Rabbit's Pocket Watch
gives
it rush.
Just pay for it that way.
Yes, so you can pay for rush. Then kill with the chicken.
Then that's a Fire the Cannons.
Yes,
an inkable Fire the Cannons chicken. So yeah, I think that's a cool card.
Yeah, and I think the Fairy Godmother, I think both of us think is very good. I love
that card.
It's going to get. We'll talk about it quick.
Yeah, it's going to get better.
It shifts for 2, so which is why it's not as good right now. Is it needs a good shift target.
Once you can cheat that into play, that card is going to be silly.
Whenever
I still play it paying 5.
Whenever this character quests, your characters gain Challenger 3, and when this character is banished, return this card to your hand this turn.
So you can swing with a Hey Hey as a 5/1.
Yep.
And if it didn't have the ability that it already has, it would still return to your hand.
Yes.
You're gonna swing. I have Cusco in my Fairy Godmother deck, which is the llama, correct? The 1/2 llama. When this character is banished, you may draw a card. So you just throw Cusco at something for 4 damage, whether it kills it or not. You don't care. You draw a card and it goes back to your hand. I think that card has got some serious application. I'm just waiting to figure out what that piece is. What's your disappointment card?
It's another Stonks card.
Yes,
at $6. My disappointment.
$6. Yeah, buy a bunch of them.
My disappointment card. There were a couple on here. This is definitely Perplexing Signpost is one of my least favorite cards, along with Binding Contract.
Okay,
those are 2. This is like the worst card. My most disappointing card for me, play-wise, is the Madame Mim Purple Dragon.
Okay.
7-cost inkable, 5/7, turns for 4. It's evasive. When you play this character, banish her, return 2 chosen characters to your hand. This was a card I really hyped up, and I know you weren't super into it.
I was on the fence.
You were on the fence.
I'm still on the fence.
It's all right. I don't think it's great because I understand the application of now you have to banish 2 things. Yes, you could have 2 goats in play, but the way the deck, way most of the purple decks work with Arthur and the Foxes is they're all very cheap cards. Cheating is, or you can't really cheat the 7-cost into play because you can't shift like the other Madame Mim.
Yeah,
and it's still very good. It turns for 4 with evasive, which makes it hard to deal with.
Yeah, it's Mickey. It's a slightly better, slightly cheaper Mickey that you have to bounce cards when.
I think it could be good in like a purple blue where you're ramping and then you put down Aurora and now it has Ward like the Stitch, so it's like it's turning for 4. Deal with it.
Sure.
But that's like you'd have to center around that, and I feel like it would lose just so much.
It's just the fact bouncing 2 characters is hard.
Yeah,
because you have to have 2 characters in play that you don't want to have to either replay or get or lose. If you have a talkative puppet and a Madame Mim snake in play, that you're bouncing 4 costs worth it. So you're technically paying 11 for that Madame Mim that you're playing. So,
right.
I just don't see the value. I see the value in the 1 bump because you're going to get a lot out of it. And as I think this card's going to be better and better as time goes on, and there's more aggressive things that are cheap. But it's just not good enough. I'm with you on that. So my disappointing card is a similar Madame Mim's type card. It's Gruesome and Grim. The song. I was originally decently high on this when we had reviewed it. It's just disappointing. It doesn't get there for me. Singing it is great.
Yep.
Giving something rush is great. Like we're saying, oh my god, I wish I could give that rush. You can give Hey Hey Rush right there, but it's just falls flat. It's not powerful enough. If you could maybe do some shenanigans with like a purple gray deck, and you can Gruesome and Grim some silliness there, and then you get to attack with Cindy. I don't know. I don't even know what I would attack. Would gruesome be good? Maybe Namari's fine, but the 4-cost Beast would be kind of good when it comes in. It also deals the damage.
Yep.
So that with Rush is kind of cool. So again, there's applications there. It's just hasn't gotten there for me.
Yeah. So
next color
is Emerald.
Emerald.
So
what's your top 5?
My top 5. We'll just go from in set number order.
You do it.
We have Beast Relentless, obviously a card that was very hyped when we first talked about it. We still want it to be very good. And it can be very good.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't been as meta fighting as we both thought it would be.
Right.
It is a 6-cost inkable, Beast Relentless. It is a 4/5 turns for 2. Whenever opposing character is damaged, ready this character. I mean, being able to just damage anything gets damaged and ready again just feels really good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm sure some of these are on your list, so I won't dwell on it.
You just fire what you got, and then I'll.
Then we have 5-cost uninkable Bell, Hidden Archer, shift 3, turns for 3. It's a 3/3. When it's challenged, discards your opponent's entire hand. I think the card is very good. I think over time I've felt less and less about it because there are many ways you can play around it.
Yes.
The hardest way to play around it is the Maui. If you have a red Maui in play and you have no way to get rid of the Bell, you're kind of forced to attack into it.
It feels nice when you drop that down and they have a Maui. It's really good against Relentless in general.
Yes.
Because most Relentless do with 3 damage, at least.
Yeah.
So it's going to be. So that's interesting.
And then I have the Daisy Duck Secret Agent. Whenever it quests, you discard a card. I feel like it's very good to just force cards out of people's hand. Then I have this was a tough one to do because there's so many good cards that I like in this set. I have to give Pete his props here because it's Pete. He's a 5-cost inkable, bad guy. He has Ward. Whenever you play an action, he gets +2 power, and when he has 7 or more power, he gets, or toughness it's called. Whenever you get 7 or more toughness, he gets +2. So he already turns for 2. He has a toughness of 3. If you pair it with the Queen, he turns for 4. The Queen turns for 2. It's an automatic 6.
Yeah. You beat me so many times doing that right in a row.
And then my next card, there are other ones that you might have on your list, but my next one is 3-cost inkable Ring the Bell. Pay as chosen damage character. It's just such a cheap removal card that you can ping a damage on a dragon and just kill the dragon.
Feels nice.
Yeah. So
of my 5, Relentless Beast was my first one.
Yep.
I still love it. It's still a good card.
Yep.
I'm still tweaking how to make it work. It's only going to get better.
Yep.
I think that card is really, really good. That stonks right now for $14. It just, you know what my favorite thing to do with Beast is? Sing Grab Your Swords. He sings Grab Your Swords, hits everything for 2, and immediately readies himself.
Yeah.
So it's like you sing it for free. In my deck, I can sing that terrible card that everybody loves so much, Whole New World.
Your favorite card?
Ugh, I hate it, but it's
necessary.
Play it. I do. I have to play it. You sing that with him, and then you draw a damage spell, and you go, okay, damage. He comes back, and you can still keep using him. Anything that can ready itself, especially at a 5-cost that can sing a bunch of songs, is really, really powerful. I agree with Daisy Duck as well. When she exerts, you get to discard a card. Discard's really powerful. I think it's nicely costed. It's not too oppressive at a 4-cost. I haven't built anything super with it yet, but I think it's a really powerful card. Another one that you didn't touch on, is one of my favorites, is Enchantress.
I figured you were going to talk about that.
Love that card. I put that in all my green so far. You deal with it.
Yeah.
You either take 3 damage on one of your guys, hit something, use your kill spell on a 2-cost, or I'm turning for 2 every turn.
Yeah.
And I really, really like Enchantress for that reason. Next card is Kitten Face, of course. And not the Kitten Face you guys think I'm probably going to be talking about. This one's Lucifer, Cunning Cat. It's the 2/2 that when you play it, each opponent, so not if you're playing a multiplayer game, everybody, which is kind of cool, chooses and discards either 2 cards or 1 action card. It does not work correctly on Pixelborn right now, FYI. But that is super powerful. You know why I put that in my deck? Be prepared.
Yeah.
So they're either discarding 2 cards or they're discarding their Be Prepared. That's a win for me either way.
Yeah.
I think it really unlocks a lot of Emerald's possibilities by getting those scary cards out of your opponent's hands.
Yeah.
So I didn't think people were really on this too much. So I'm pretty big into it. And then the last card I have to.
Oh God, here we go.
Steel myself for. So My last card, believe it or not, is Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. I know how much I have crapped on this card because
sure
I crapped on this card because I thought it worked like a normal card is supposed to work, but it does not.
Are you sure that's what the name of the card is?
It's Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, and it's Bibbidi Bobbidi Broken.
Broken.
So return chosen character of yours to your hand to play another character with the same cost or less for free. So you would think, oh, okay, well, as we were saying, well, you have to have something that costs the same. And all of these other criteria. It's uninkable. It's a song which is nice. Guess what? According, I have not verified this yet. I'm in the process of trying to find where this has been documented, but apparently, according to Ravensburger, when a card goes when a card is bounced back to your hand, which is what this does, it is in your hand and no longer public knowledge. So you don't get to know what's in another player's hand, which means that you can just play the same damn card again. Like the cat I literally just talked about. I'm going to Bibbidi Bobbidi that cat, and guess what happens?
Discard more.
It goes up to my hand, and I immediately put it back down. For 3, you discard 2 more cards. It's stupid. They did not... I can't believe that it works like that, but apparently, if that is how it works, as of right now, I'm only 85% believing that this is how it specifically says on it, you may play another card. Like, it says that in word, but apparently that doesn't matter. If it is true that you're literally just blinking things with it, that's incredibly... I can't even articulate how powerful that card is.
Yeah.
I literally did not have the words come out of my mouth.
When you bounce a dragon for another dragon.
Oh, my God. You just Bibbidi Bobbidi a dragon, it just blinks it, and it does this... Oh, God.
Or the blue Hades.
Anything. Any of these crazy come into play effects. So that is now... what I think is the most powerful card in this set, if that is truly what it does. And you can sing the damn thing.
Yeah.
So I put a Daisy Duck in, and I sing with Daisy Duck, and I blink my my cat. Anyway, so if that is truly how it is, then I guess that's the most powerful card, and it's going to be in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So what's your least favorite? Which one didn't do it for you?
There are a lot of disappointments. I think the biggest disappointment I had out of all of these probably had to be the Prince John. I think it's very good, but I've realized the more that I want to play it, other than the fact that you draw when they discard, there's a decent amount of discard, but when you look at a game, people don't discard a ton, other than if you pair it with Lucifer or some like other discard cards.
Yeah.
It's very niche.
You have to pair it with
You have to pair it with cards that work with it. And it was one of those things that I thought was like, oh, you throw a couple of them in a deck and you just keep it on your, in play. But it's like, it's not super great. It turns for 2, which is all right. But out of everything that I was like super excited for, it's like, oh, you pair it with a whole new world and all that. It's like, it just doesn't feel as impactful as it should.
Okay. When I've had people with it in play, the fact that it has ward makes it okay. But other than that, it hasn't really impressed me. Even when people are running like a dedicated discard deck, sure, maybe they'll draw 1 or 2 cards off of it. And I feel a 3-cost uninkable is a liability if you're not drawing. Now, mind you, if they have 2 or 3, like I had somebody with 3 in play when I was playing online, and I discarded 1 card and they drew 3. That's a lot. So, okay, fine. But other than that, it dies to grab your swords without even trying. I guess. You know what it dies to? It dies to a Tinkerbell that you Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo a Tinkerbell.
Oh, God.
So, yeah,
actually, if you're playing green steel, you can do that.
So anyway,
you can.
I agree with you. It didn't quite get there. So unfortunately for me, that breaks my heart. But the card that has underperformed for me is my sweet, sweet Cheshire Cat. I love this art. This is the 8-cost, mind you, the 5/6. Shift for 5 is good. Evasive is good. Banish chosen damage character is good. Turning for 2 is good. Like I see on paper, it just seems like a really good card, but it's slow. And he's a big old boombalatti. And you put him down, and he's just stuck in play. I've done some silly things with him, and you can get some kills on things that you had no right killing with him. He has evasive, so he's harder to interact with. So there are upsides, but it's just been underperforming. Yeah. It just hasn't got there for me. I guess I'm up, right?
Yes, we got red.
We're on Ruby. So Ruby, I I'll be quick-ish on this one. So Lady Tremaine, we don't need to talk much about this. This is my number one. I think this card is super powerful. Being able to remove effectively anything, especially if it's the only thing in play, which is Red's whole thing, is really powerful. Blinking this with Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, really powerful. Bouncing it in my deck. It's in my deck that I bounce it to my hand and play it again. Just getting it repeated usage out of this is really, really good. My next card is the Minnie Mouse, the surfer, stylish surfer. She's a 1/3 evasive. Again, it hasn't been in a lot, but when it is in there, it's super annoying to deal with because I still don't have a lot of evasive in most of my decks.
Right.
And if somebody gets that out turn 3, they're just turning for 2,
which we like.
We do,
unless
but
it's
not when
against
it's
us.
against me. So that's, I think that it's got a lot of upside to it. My next card is the Queen of Hearts, the 2 cost. She has Rush. I just think a 2/2 with Rush is good.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else that needs to be said about it. It just fills a 2 slot at Inkable. Next card is Teeth and Ambitions.
Wow, you put that on your list?
I was really not sold on this before, but the fact that it's a song and some of the silly things that you can do with it, and I think more in what it pairs with than what it is.
Right.
I think it's really interesting to be able to heal some damage off of it with a Rapunzel.
Yep.
You can use it to pop a Grammatala. That's really cool when Grammatala sings it, kills herself, puts herself into the ink, and deals 2 damage to one of your guys.
Yeah.
I think it's got some application there. It's just I still don't think it's great, but it's significantly better than I originally thought it was. So I have to give it the nod. And the other one I also want to quickly talk about is Dinner Bell. I was not sold on this before either, but this card is really cool. Pay 2, draw cards equal to the damage on chosen character of yours and banish it. I'm like, oh, that seems like a really bad cost.
Until you
see how many things, how easy it is to just have damage on something, and you're like, I would rather kill this, draw 3 cards,
then have them kill it.
Right.
And draw nothing.
Exactly. So I think that that's another kind of overperforming card. So those are my 5.
Yeah, so Lady Tremaine was one. Again, you touched on all of it. Minnie Mouse was actually another one because of how good it was doing in some of these decks. Shere Khan was in mine as well. Okay. Whenever one of your characters challenges another character, gain 1 lore. If you pair that with the Scar, which, during your turn, whenever this character banishes another character, they challenge you, ready him.
Too many cats in one deck.
Too many cats. Being able, if you board wipe with Scar, especially since he has Rush and you have the Shere Khan in, it's you're gaining a lot of lore there, and that's just off of killing things. So both of those were on there, and then Dinner Bell was my last one, just because of being able to stack, especially with the Scar. You put 4 damage on the Scar, you're done killing things, and you Dinner Bell it away. You're drawing 4 cards, and if you get another Scar, you play it next turn.
That's a good point.
And
what's your disappointment card?
Yeah, so there were, a lot of these cards are disappointing to me.
Oh, wow.
Red didn't get a lot. My most disappointing was another one of the legendaries was Donald Duck. I don't think it does a ton. I know we're trying to build a deck for our friend with it, which the way we're building it is good, but he's also not trying to be super meta with it. Yes, it gets +1 for each damage on him, which does pair well with Dinner Bell. You get 4 damage on it, you turn for 5, and then you banish it. But you don't really want to stack damage on it, and I guess other than Teeth and Ambitions, there's not a great way to do it right now.
That's the problem. There's not a good way to do it. But
No.
if you Teeth and Ambitions this, it's still fine.
Yeah.
It's a 1/5 that has evasive that's turning for 3, so it's hard to deal with. But I think that it, as of right now, it doesn't feel silver or gold rare.
Right.
To me, I'm with you on that. But actually, my disappointing card was Shere Khan.
Wow.
I've tried putting that in 3 different decks, and every single time I would rather ink it than get the 1 or 2 I may get out of it. Now I've tried to do it in a dedicated Rush deck, so it's just you're just taking things down. But then they have to be exerted, so then you have to play cards that exert. So then it ended up having to be red purple. I already have a red purple deck, and it just kind of fizzled in that regard. Not to say that I can't play them both, but it was disappointing for me in that regard.
So for blue, my first is going to be Cogsworth Grandfather Clock. Giving everything it has ward. Giving everything resist 1 is very good. Makes people trying to do sacrifices with their Lilos impossible.
Mm-hmm.
Killing Lilos means you take no damage. It's just turning. You're turning your card. Turn your card, banish a Lilo.
Sounds good.
Same with the Enchantress. As much as you love that card, it does die for free.
Yes, it does. Well, no, because it hits for 3. So
you're right. No, you're right.
You still take 2.
Yes.
But I think that if you can shift that into play, although the other Cogsworth
Yes.
is bad, I agree with you on that.
So then we have the Gaston, 6 cost Gaston. I mean, he turns for 3, which is one very good thing about him. When you play him, look at the top 3 cards of your deck. You can put 1 in your hand, the rest in the bottom. Being able to grab cards, especially in like a red-blue deck where you're like ramping very fast and you need to see things like Popsicles or Nick Wilds or Flavor Shams, like being able to see those very fast feels really good, especially if you shift it. If you play the red Gaston, which we were talking about earlier,
turns for 3.
Flavor Sham is in there. We've touched on that a lot when we talked about blue. I'll quickly touch on it if this is your first episode with us and you haven't listened to us rant about how good this card is. But whenever it comes into play and quests, you banish an item to draw 2. And then you pair that with Nick Wild, which isn't on my list, but we'll talk about him quick.
Okay.
And he gets Popsicle out of your discard, so then you just chain that. Then I have Noi. Noi is a 2 cost. When you have it in play, it gets resist 1 and ward, which is very good.
Okay. Well,
and then
that was 4. Right?
That's what I thought. Yeah, that was 4.
I can't count.
And then after that is Popsicle. I mean, you have to give it to Popsicle. It's very good. You draw a card when it leaves play. You can also use it when it goes into play, right? And then you could also heal 2 off with it. So it's like with that Scar we were just talking about, kill everything. And if you don't have Dinner Bell, you just Popsicle, heal it.
So I'm with you on most of those. But I'll put a few more nods out. Whoops, broke my pen. Alice Growing Girl. I really, really love this card. I haven't quite cracked the code on it, but giving everything support is so powerful. You don't even realize it until you're swinging with a 6/3 caterpillar.
Yeah.
Like it's silly what she can do. And then on the odd chance that you get her to 10, you can turn for 5.
Yeah.
I don't really care so much about turning for 5. If I get it, that's great.
Yeah.
But it's more to just give everything support, and I have a bunch of huge bodies.
Yeah.
My second one was Cogsworth. There's nothing else to say about that one. I totally agree with you. My third one is Cruella de Vil. Everybody knows that I'm big on these 2 cards. That's a great one as well. 3/2 for 2 is fantastic, and she gets evasive when she can't attack. Like it's only good sides. I don't know how anybody doesn't put forward these in a deck.
She's an animal killer.
She kills so many animals. I love that card.
And children.
Flamashavasham. We already talked about him. He's fantastic. And my other one is going to Pooh. This is a controversial pick. People think this card is bad. I love this card. I don't think it's necessarily a replacement for anything. I think it's a supplemental card. You really only want to get 1 card out of it, but it is so incredibly good to just turn that for 2, pick 1 card out of your hand, no matter if it's inkable or not, and put it in ready. Mm-hmm. So you're still getting that same ink like you would get with a Mickey, but you're picking what it is. Like even if you ink the top card that you just drew, which is what Mickey would have done anyway, it still feels the same.
Yeah.
So it gives you the option to pick whatever you want, and it comes in ready, so you don't lose any tempo. And it's everything else about that card has better stats. So it's inkable. It's a 2/3, and it turns for 2 instead of being uninkable, a 1/3, and turns for 1.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm saying it's a little better than Mickey, but I don't think that you replace it necessarily. You could just add it. But I think that Sapphire got a lot of really good pieces. I didn't even talk about the Popsicle engine because everybody knows that it's good.
Right. What was your poo-poo pick?
My poo-poo pick. My disappointment was Sisu.
Sisu, yeah.
I want to run this card. I think that it's very interesting. It has a slightly better develop your brain whenever it attacks. No, it is develop your brain whenever it attacks. The slightly better one's Gaston. Whenever it quests, excuse me. And sure, that's fine. But I just don't think it's fine enough. It is not impressing me.
Yeah.
Nice.
I agree with you on that. That is also my pick for it just being bad. It's especially like we said earlier, like we were talking earlier, as an uninkable, it's just not great. It doesn't do enough for me that it makes me want to play it over Develop Your Brain or Gaston, just because you can do other things with it.
And lastly, we have Steel. You know what my first pick is this. It's Emo Beast.
Yeah.
The power of drawing 2 cards on your turn is, you can't understate that. You get 2 of them in play, you're drawing 3 cards on a turn. It's easy to just put it into play and say, all right, now do something about it. Right. If not, I'm going to keep drawing cards. And
then if you don't kill it, I'm going to kill you because it's a 7/5.
Right. I'm going to at least have a revenge kill on the way out. So I think it's got a lot of application. And when you have a shift target for this, a cheap shift target, this card is going to be very good. You imagine a 2-cost beast you can shift into this turn 3.
Yeah.
It's going to be really. I think that they probably won't print a beast that cheap for a while for that reason.
They know. They're not dumb.
I hope. So my second pick is Benja. It's speaking of the old beast. It is just a better the old beast. It's a 3-cost. It's a 2/3, and it turns for 2. It does everything you want it to do and still banishes an item.
Yeah.
I think it's a near 4 of in every single steel deck right now, especially with the popularity of popsicles and other silly cards like that. You're going to get some value out of it, and if not, you still have something to turn for 2.
Yeah.
My next pick is my girl Cindy. We know 7-cost, 5 shift, resist 2, turns for 3, can attack active things when you sing a song. It is the effective basis of the Steel Song deck right now. I just love this card. It's a lot of fun to play. I don't even put it in Steel Songs. I still have songs, but it's just good no matter what when you can get it into play, especially with the fact that there's things to shift from, because there's a steel one. Even if you're just running steel, you don't have to have the yellow one, which is really cool. My fourth pick, I was going to go with the Jafar, but I already talked about the Cruella, so I'm not going to pick the same card, but I'm actually going to pick his quote-unquote evolution, the Shift 2 target Jafar Dreadnought. As I was telling you, the cool thing about the Cruella de Vil is it's a 3/2 for 2, and it also can attack things with evasive. Like, all of those things are good. There's no downsides to that card. This has that, but you can also change it into the Jafar, which says, oh, I thought I was just going to trade with you. That's a really cool thing. Instead, guess what? I'm going to trade, but not, because I'm going to hit your guy. I'm not going to die now because my butt's a 4 now, and I get to draw a card, and I'll draw another card when we do another one. Yeah. I think that it just has a lot of power. I've been using it a decent amount on the ladder, and it's been really good. And my last pick, it's a shock to you, I know, but that's Let the Storm Rage On. I said this from the very beginning. You're like, oh, it's because it's from Frozen and you love Frozen. And that's not what it is. I do love Frozen. That is not a lie. But this card is fantastic, and you can't disagree with me anymore. Can you?
No, you're right. You're right.
Oh, see, well, that's good, because I was wrong about another thing that we'll have to talk about, because we found out, spoiler alert. But tell me your gray first. Excuse me, steel.
My steel, yeah. So, I mean, Beast Tragic Hero and Benja were on there along with Cinderella. Beast Selfless Protector was another one that I had. Being able to take damage counters from other things and get them pinged onto him, even if he dies, saves all of your other characters. He's essentially a bodyguard for damage counters.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And then I had the Namari as well. The Namari's very good at challenges readied characters. This bodyguard, not that you'll really be using bodyguard.
Yeah, you don't want a bodyguard.
But once you're being able to give that support and it can hit for more, it will be a very good card.
What's your least favorite? Which one didn't do it for you?
Most likely it would have been the Huntsman. The Huntsman, especially, I mean, we've been talking a lot about rarities being bad.
Yeah.
As a rare, it's a 1/1 that turns for 2. It's a 2-cost inkable, which isn't terrible, but it has one of those things where it's like its abilities are right. It's just not super useful for its rarity. Yeah. You can draw a card and choose and discard. Like a lot of the times too, like you don't want to do that, which you don't have to, but it's like, then it's just like, okay, it's essentially a Lilo that you play on turn 2 that's not inkable. That is inkable. And it's like, I'd rather ink it than play it.
Yeah, that's just an underwhelming card. Yeah. That ability is only met to begin with. My disappointing card, where was it? Scroll down. There it is. I couldn't remember what the name of it was.
Strength of a Raging Fire.
Strength of a Raging Fire, yeah. I just, most of the time I'm inking this. The fact that you can ink it makes it better. Yeah. And it is a song, which I love all the songs. Most of the time I'm not getting that damage out of it. So if you sing a song to deal 2 damage, I mean, okay, that's neat. Yeah. And sometimes it can do silly things, 4 or 5 damage. That's really cool. Yeah. But it's extremely rare. Most of the time it's just ink. So I still have it in 2 of my decks online. I only have it in 1 constructed reality deck. But so far, I'm very unimpressed with that card. Yeah. So now I have to admit a thing. So we went back while we were processing some of this podcast, and
we found something out. I mean,
Anthony was right. He specifically did say that the flute, Sleepy's flute, was a decent card.
I did name drop Steel Song specifically.
He specifically said Steel Song, and I'm like, and I did give him the credit, say, oh yeah, that does seem good in Steel Song, but I did poo-poo on it, and
you would rather play any other item than...
I said, what would prevent... But along the lines of Ant was right, and
Yeah.
I got to give you the shout-out on that. So next episode, we are going to do those survival cards,
Yes.
the cards I was telling you about. I know we said we were going to do that this time, but there was a lot of interesting stuff that happened over the... Not to say interesting things aren't going to happen every week, but there was a lot this last week, and the meta's developed and things like that.
We also didn't know cards were getting revealed this week.
Right.
It just kind of happened.
So we will do the survival cards. That's the segment we're going to do. We're going to keep up with the Stonk review. We like that.
Yep.
Just to see what's changing, what's fluctuating. We'll touch on the meta.
Yep.
And then we go back to cooking time. I really enjoy that, where we just talk about what decks we've been working on, what I've been working up on the ladder. We're going to start our limitless tournaments when we get the opportunity, now that we've everything's been settling down.
Yep.
So I think that there's that. Am I missing anything that we got set up?
That's about it.
Very good.
But thank you guys all for listening, and we will see you guys next week.
Thanks.